Okay, all right, we're back. All right, mommy time is over and teacher time is back. All right, so the T stands for if we decided up here that this was an informative or a persuasive prompt, that I'm going to try to write the skeleton version of my topic sentence. I can't write my topic sentence because I don't know my answer to the question yet because I haven't read the passage yet. But for example, if the passage were to say, what is the theme, if the prompt were to say, what is the theme of this passage, I could start, the theme of this passage is, and write a blank. Now, why would I do that? Well, that provides me a bit of purpose, right? Like I know my purpose in writing. I know what I'm looking for now if I have that written down. And then after I read, I'm able to then just fill in the blank. If it's a narrative, and I can't write a topic sentence for a narrative, I just write the topic of the narrative. So if I were asked to rewrite the first paragraph, then that would be in my instructions up here. And the topic of my first paragraph might be Johnny's going for a walk in the woods. If I'm asked to write a narrative about my favorite birthday party, then the topic might be my 10th birthday party. Okay, I'm going to come back down here so you can see this better. So this is typically my topic or topic sentence. Okay, like I said, if you can come up with a topic sentence for your informative or persuasive prompts or your narrative topic. Okay. A stands for audience. All right. This is who are you writing to? Now, a lot of prompts now don't give you an audience. They'll say that you are, sometimes they will say that you're writing to someone specific, like you are writing to a letter to the editor, or you are writing to the grade below you, or something like that. That is your audience. If it doesn't say anything specific, okay, if it doesn't give you a specific audience, then you're just going to write down formal, okay, or you can write down teacher, okay. So I just wrote down formal, or you can write down teacher, and all that's saying to you is use your best writing, use your best vocabulary, do the best you can as if a teacher is reading it, okay. All right, and if it is anything other than that, it will tell you. So it'll either tell you specifically or you just assume it's the teacher. So that's GITA, okay. So we're going to erase everything here except for GITA, and we're going to read a prompt and we're going to GITA it together. Okay, let's GITA it together. So this was actually a prompt that my 10-year-old son, who's in 5th grade, was given part of his digital learning. And I read over this and I thought it was a great thing to use. And so I decided to use it with you. Hopefully his teacher doesn't care. Thanks, Miss MG. And we're going to walk through it. So it's this part right here. If you want to pause and read it, it's the part that's highlighted in pink. So what this basically says, I'm going to read it out loud. Explain one idea that the author of So-Called Healthier School Lunches and the author of Bravo for Making Students Healthier agree on regarding school lunches. Use details from both passages to support your answers. Okay, so now we're going to get at this prompt. We'll see what it looks like. Okay, we're going to talk about genre first, right? So what's the genre of this and how do we know? Explain one idea. That's a key word, okay? Explain, show, teach, tell. These are all words that say we're just going to give information, okay? So that I know this is an informative answer because of the word explain. And I always have my kids do this. I always have them write down how they knew. You can't just tell me you know it's informational. You have to tell me how you knew. Now, if this said convince, persuade, okay, one of those words, then we would know that it was persuasive. All right, so this is informative. What's important in this prompt? Explain one idea. Numbers are always important, okay? So I need to know one idea. Okay, let's say I haven't read the articles yet, so I don't know, there might be 15 ideas they have in common. I gotta pick one. That's all they want to hear about, one idea. One idea the author of both passages agree on. So one idea the authors agree on. Okay, one idea the authors agree on. Regarding school lunches, okay? Regarding school lunches. So I haven't read the article yet, but they might talk about how they feel about recess, how they feel about test scores, how they feel about all kinds of things. Oh, now someone's trying to call me. I'm so sorry. Okay. one idea the authors agree on with school lunches. I've got to make sure I'm talking about the part about school lunches, okay? When I read, I'm going to be paying attention to the part about school lunches. All right, next thing says, what's my topic sentence going to be? Okay, so I can't write out my full topic sentence because I don't know what they agree on yet, but I can say both authors agree that blank. Okay, now why would I do that? Because this gives me purpose. Okay, this gives me purpose. I know now when I'm reading, my whole mission in reading these articles is to finish this sentence. Both authors agree that blank. What do they both agree on? Now, did it give me an audience here? I don't think it gave me an audience. I'm going to double check. No. It said I needed to use details from both passages. I'm going to add that back up here. Details from both passages. Because guess what? That's part of the instructions. So if I don't use details from both passages, there's no way I can get a 4 on my milestones test, okay? I cannot get a good score if I don't do exactly what they say. So I've got to talk about one idea. I've got to talk about something they agree on. Fix my screen here. I've got to talk about school lunches, and I've got to include details from both passages, okay? Otherwise, I've not sufficiently answered the question. Here's my topic sentence. My audience, I can put teacher or formal because I know I'm going to use my best stuff, okay? So I'm going to hold this here in case you want to pause, write anything down. All right, so now I'm going to erase GITA. All right, so what happens next? You've GITA'd the prompt, you know what you're looking for, so now that you've got to read the passage, and the whole entire time you're reading the passage, you need to underline anything that could help you answer the prompt. So I'm going to hold the passage up. I'm also going to download these and have them available, so just email me if you want it. Here is passage number 1. And the bottom of this begins passage number 2. Once you've read that, unpause it. And I'm going to mark a line where you stop. I always use pink whenever I can. You're going to read until you get to that pink line. You like my nails? They look horrible. Poor soul. No nail salons are open. Okay. All right. Now I'm going to read, and I'm going to underline anything that I think might help me in understanding how to answer this question. So-called healthier school lunches. Dear editor, I was so excited to hear that our local schools would finally be serving more healthy lunches. For years, I have felt guilty for allowing my kids to eat processed foods offered by the school lunch program. So I'm going to stop for a minute. And in my margins, let me see if I can find myself a pencil. In my margin, I'm going to bracket what I just said. For years, I felt guilty for allowing my kids to eat processed foods. So I know she does not like processed foods. I haven't gotten very far yet. I don't know for sure if that's going to be helpful to me, but that's the gist of that area. It's very important as you read that you're always contemplating, what's the gist? What's this part basically about? That's going to help you a lot when you go to answer it. Okay. All right. Sadly, it seems the new guidelines have not made much of a difference. Children are still eating chicken nuggets, fish sticks, and pizza every month. Some of the fruits and vegetables that are supposed to be so healthy come from cans. They are not the fresh and healthy produce I was expecting. Another problem, keyword. So one problem, it seems, that this person has talked about is that there's processed food and that there's been some kind of new guidelines, but it hasn't made any difference, not made a difference. And then she says another problem. Well, that's a key word that she's about to tell me something she doesn't like, right? So another problem is portion size, okay? So she says that. Children are given a calorie maximum based on their age without taking into account their different sizes and needs. A 220-pound high school football player doing 2-a-day practices is getting the same amount of food as smaller children or children who are not as active. That hardly seems fair. Both of my children have told me that they are hungry all day. One of my children has lunch at 10:45 a.m., and that is supposed to last until school is over at 3:15 p.m. My children hunt for junk food every day right after school. I know that many schools are struggling to meet these guidelines, but they do have to have to do better than this. I have no choice but to send my children to school with packed lunches. This way I can control the portions myself. I can also be sure that they have fresh, not processed fruits and vegetables every day. So the gist, I would say, of this person is she does not like processed foods. She does not think that the new guidelines have made much of a difference. And she has an issue with the portion sizes. She doesn't think that they're adequate for all of the different children. She wants her children to have fresh, not processed fruits and vegetables. This last line is very helpful in summing up her view. She wants to control the portions, and she wants to make sure they have fresh, not processed food. So let's see what this other person says. Bravo for making students healthier. Dear editor, before retiring 10 years ago, I had been an elementary school teacher for 37 years. During my first year, students were filled with energy. They ran around all during recess. Then they would come back in the classroom and complete their lessons. At the start of my career, students ate in the classroom. Their parents packed them fairly healthy lunches. They often consisted of leftover home-cooked meals rather than processed foods. I often saw vegetables that seemed to have come straight from the garden. Over the years, students seemed to be less energetic. I noticed more students sitting and talking during recess. Many were eating non-nutritious snacks. Fewer were playing and burning off extra energy. When they returned to class, their minds wandered. They struggled to focus. Prepared lunches at school did not help. In fact, they added to the problem. Students received regular servings of pizza, burgers, and mashed potatoes from a box. Many students loved it, but it didn't seem right to me. Our students deserved better. They deserved healthy foods to nourish their brains and bodies. So I'm going to stop for a second. I'm going to go back and look at the gist. So this first paragraph down here, she's talking about how she's taught for 37 years, right? And back in the day, when she first started teaching, kids brought their own lunches from home, and they were healthy lunches. And as a result, the kids had lots of energy, and they were able to focus. So I'm going to bracket this, and I'm going to write healthy lunch equals energy plus focus. That's the gist. The gist is that if they are having healthy lunches, then they're going to have energy and they're going to have focus. And then she tells me in this paragraph, the one I just read, that when they started eating the school lunches, that all stopped. They weren't really playing at recess. They didn't have the energy. They weren't focusing in class. Why was this happening? She says they were eating non-nutritional snacks. And I hear the word added to the problem. Again, keyword problem. And they received regular servings of pizza, burgers, and mashed potatoes from a box. Okay, so she's saying processed food's the problem, right? Okay, last part here, end of the story. Now students are finally getting more healthy foods at school. Our country recently revealed a change in school lunches. No more processed chicken fingers, pizza, and sugary chocolate milk. Students now enjoy healthier baked options, fruits, vegetables, and low-fat dairy products. These options are offered at every meal. Students can fill up on brain-healthy foods. I've also heard that school leaders plan to change vending machine options. They will swap sugary snacks for more healthy whole grain options. Hats off to health. There are so many distractions like the internet, video games, and smartphones. Real foods like vegetables and fruits will help students focus in class. It will help them feel healthier and have more energy to be active. Okay. All right. So I can tell by reading that these authors don't agree, right? One saying the guidelines didn't help at all. One saying, oh, yay, we have better food now. That's what they disagree on. Am I allowed to write about that? No, I'm not allowed to write about that. The question is, what do they agree on? What do both people agree on? So I want you to take a minute. I'm going to pause. You can pause me. And I want you to ask yourself, what did they both agree on? I hope you liked that pause. They both agreed that processed foods are no good, right? They don't want processed foods in our lunches. Okay, now it's time to get serious. The next thing, we already get it, right? Yes, I use that as a verb. The next thing we do is to write our paragraph, we use TEEEC. TEEEC's going to be your best friend, okay? TEEEC is going to be what you use for any paragraph you write. T, E, 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 C. Okay, now I know you're like, okay, T and a bunch of E's and a C. How does that help me? Well, here's how. The T you're using in TEEEC stands for topic sentence, okay? So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to write down a topic sentence. So here, our topic sentence would be, both authors agree that processed foods are not healthy for school lunches, or that both authors agree to get rid of processed foods in school lunches. Both authors agree that students would be better off if they did not have processed foods for lunch. Anyway, any kind of wording of that would work for the topic sentence. We'll write it here in a second. The first E, okay, the first E stands for evidence. Now, the reason I hesitated a little bit about where I was going to write that, because really, it does stand for evidence, but you always want a transition word first. And then after you write the transition word, you're going to give your first piece of evidence, and that's where the E comes from, okay? You can't just say that they agree and then say the first text says, or in the text it says, no. You got to guide me step by step. So I need a transition word. So a really easy transition word to use here is for example. So if you say up here, both authors agree that students would be better off without processed foods in their lunches. Both authors agree that processed foods should not be part of the school lunches. Whatever, one of those. For example, and now I'm going to give evidence from one of the passages, okay? So we have E1, this is E2, E2, and I'll explain that in a second. So now I'm going to give evidence from my first passage. I have to look through here, and I have to find some kind of evidence that would support the fact that the first author doesn't like processed foods, okay? I could say, for example, in the first article, the author says that for years she has felt guilty about allowing her kids to eat processed foods offered by the school lunch program. Boom. You just gave evidence that this person who wrote this does not like processed foods in the lunches, okay? So now we have, for example, in the first text it says, I have felt guilty for allowing my kids to eat processed foods offered by the school lunch program. Now, what is the second E? This E that says E1? This is the explanation. Now you've given me evidence. You have to explain to me how that evidence proves the topic sentence or supports the topic sentence. Okay, so the explanation answers questions like, what does it show? What does it mean? So what? Like any of these kinds of questions can answer the evidence. So I said, so the explanation can give you more information. You can go into more detail, or you can just explain the quotation that you use. The idea is that you have to say a sentence in your own words that connects that evidence back to the topic sentence. So if my evidence was, in the text it says, I have felt guilty for allowing my kids to eat the processed foods offered by the school lunch program. This shows that the author does not like her kids eating foods like pizza, chicken nuggets, and fish sticks. She would prefer them to eat fruits and vegetables that are fresh. So I've told you what the quote means, and I've also given you some additional information to help you better understand where the author is coming from. It's in my own words. It's kind of the gist of the whole entire argument of that author. So kids really struggle with this sentence, okay? And kids, if you're listening to this, you're not alone. It's an everybody problem, okay? But it's so many kids want to say, this shows she doesn't like processed foods. You didn't tell me anything new. You didn't help me better understand. You didn't give me any more information. You just repeated what you just said, okay? That's not sufficient. If that's where you are right now, ask yourself, why? You might say, this shows she doesn't like processed foods because. That's step one. If you're in a rut like that, you always want to say, this shows that the kid was sad. This shows that she doesn't like processed foods. This shows, and then you just kind of stop. You need to ask yourself why, and you need to add the word because. This shows the kid was sad because, and then you have to get more information from that story. This shows the author doesn't like processed foods because she doesn't want her kids eating chicken nuggets and pizza. Instead, she wants them to have okay? Awesome explanation. Then you have, so that's the first set of E's. Okay? First set of E's for the first paragraph. I have a piece of evidence and an explanation. Now I go on to the next passage. This piece of evidence from the next passage, but hold up, wait a minute. You cannot go on without a transition word. If you are going to, so I need a transition here. Can't wait to see what I'm writing, can you? Okay, before I go on, notice this. Explanation, make it good. None of that lame stuff, okay? All right, now you're gonna do a transition, right? To go on to your other piece of evidence. If you're giving more of the same, you use a word like additionally. If you're using something different, you use a word like however. So for example, if this question had asked us, how do they disagree? You might say in the first article, they say this, however, in the second article, they say this. But we're not going to use however here, right? Because we're telling how these people agree. You could say additionally, you could say similarly, right? Because we're trying to say how they agree. Either one would work. I'm going to use similarly just because I like that better. And you're going to give me a piece of evidence from the second piece of writing, and then you're going to give me an explanation. You're going to make it good in that second piece of writing. So let's look at it. Bravo for making students healthier, right? So what's the gist here? She doesn't like processed foods either. Where can we most easily find a quote for that? Probably when she was talking about how the kids didn't have energy, right? When they were eating processed foods. So I know exactly where to go because I was highlighting because I'm awesome like that, right? I know exactly where to go. I don't have to reread the passage, waste my time. Okay, more students said, okay, many were eating non-nutritious snacks. Let's see, what do I want to use here? Struggle to focus. Students received regular servings of pizza, burgers, and mashed potatoes. Ooh, I think I'm going to use that. I'm going to say, similarly, in the second article, it states students received regular servings of pizza, burgers, and mashed potatoes from a box. This upset the author because she argued that caused them to not have as much energy and they couldn't play at recess, and it caused them to be less focused in class. And see how long that explanation was? I didn't just say students received regular servings of pizza, burgers, and mashed potatoes from a box. This shows that the author did not like processed foods. I'm stuck there. What do? I add the word because. It shows the author did not like processed foods because she says in the article that the kids weren't focused, that they did not have the energy to play at recess because of these processed foods. You understand? You gotta really explain. This explanation thing is so important. All right. What do you think that C stands for? Yeah, conclusion. You're right. Okay, concluding sentence. Don't you dare just stop, and don't you dare repeat your topic sentence. And that's why the authors agree. No. So boring. All right, your concluding sentence should be something, the best thing you got to wrap up this whole thing. Okay, so what's the gist of both of them? This is asking you how they both agree, right? So what's the gist of how they both agree? Give you a minute. Pause again. Pause takes fun. I do that. I want you to think, what would both of these people say they really want to happen here? What would they agree on? Okay. I'm going to say, I need a transition word though, right? I have got to have a transition word. Oh my goodness. So if you've learned anything else here, you've learned, let me find a different color. What color do you guys want me to use? Oh, you can't talk to me. That's so bad. What do I have in here? See, I'm going through my teacher bag. Every teacher has a teacher bag. Okay. All right. So let's see how many transition words I have so far. 1, 2, 3. Every single TEEEC paragraph, every single paragraph you ever write should have 3 transition words. A transition word before the first evidence, transition word before the second piece of evidence, and transition before the concluding sentence. Don't ever turn in anything that doesn't have 3 transition words. Transition words they're a map for your whole entire paper. It's organization, big points, okay? Super easy big points, so don't mess that up. All right, concluding sentence. All in all, therefore, as a result, okay? I'm gonna write this down. All in all, therefore, as a result, okay? I'm gonna pick all in all. I like that one for this. All in all, the authors would prefer fresh fruits and vegetables for school lunches. Can you read my writing? All in all, the authors would prefer fresh fruits and vegetables for school lunches. Okay, there you have it. You put all that together. I know I didn't get to show you the entire end result there with that one, but it would be we're out of time. I will tell it to you something like this from my memory, okay? Let's see how I do. I've done this in a while. Been completely by memory, but I'm writing a paragraph for you. Okay, here we go. Both authors agree. I'm ready. Both authors agree that students would be better off without processed foods in their lunches. For example, in the first article, it says, I have felt guilty for allowing my kids to eat the processed foods offered by the school lunch program. This shows that that parent does not like processed foods such as chicken nuggets, fish sticks, and pizza. Similarly, in the second article, the author writes, students receive regular servings of pizza, burgers, and mashed potatoes from a box. This author does not like that because she says that it causes them to have less energy and not be able to focus in class. All in all, the authors would prefer fresh fruits and vegetables for school lunches. Boom, done, easy, okay? So that's your first lesson in a TEEEC paragraph. I will upload a typed up version of that as well, and to everyone who needs it. And if you need anything that I have not given to you, don't forget that you can email me at GITAWritingToolkit.com. Thank you.